the construction world too, it's about the tools.
Yeah.
You gotta have the right tools, right?
Dude, it's all about the tools. I made my son read a book by is this in your way? Is it in
No.
your feet? Okay, cool.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, it works out. Just chill out, man.
Yeah.
Prop your feet up. It's kind of the end of a long work day for you. You still working after this? Does the work ever stop?
I have a board meeting at 6.
Yeah, the work never stops,
No,
does it?
Not in the startup world.
Yeah. When you enter the startup world, and it's like you're trying to build your own thing, like whatever that creation is. I feel like people have the wrong idea of what work is, because when you're doing something for yourself, you're working all the time, but it's never in the context of what people think of as work. I think a lot of people think like work is this place that you have to, like, it's this place you have to go, but it's really like this thing that you get to do in your life. You know what I mean? So it's like when you're building something, you're working all the time. You're thinking about it all the time. You know, it's calls, emails, strategy. Just it never stops, does it?
Yeah, no, I just for the listeners or the viewers, I'm an educator by trade, so
Yeah.
it's been an interesting learning curve.
Yeah.
We, as a coach or a school administrator or a teacher, you work excessive,
Yeah.
but you don't own it.
Yeah.
Right? You own the emotion.
It's different.
You own the impact, but you don't own the technology, the business, the revenue,
Yeah.
the wins, the losses.
Yeah.
And I feel like, unfortunately for education, it's like playing a team sport,
Yeah.
right? You can blame it on other people.
Right. Team sports, I've done team and individual, and it can be pretty frustrating when somebody's not pulling their weight.
Oh, yeah.
Or, people start pointing the finger, and, like, just people aren't being good team players. It's, like, one of the most frustrating things.
Yeah, no, in the education space versus the corporate space, as a competitor in wrestling or in martial arts of any sort,
Yeah.
you live and die by what your work ethic is.
Oh, yeah.
In the startup world, it's very the same. It's
Right.
the same exact experience.
Right.
But in the education space, you don't have that flexibility. You go in and do your job, and you make an impact the way you think you make an impact.
Yeah.
The kids don't always see it the same way the teachers see it. So in this world, although I'm in educational technology, I still get to make the impact the way I think
Yeah.
I'm making an impact.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the market dictates if I'm really making an impact. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's been kind of the new learning experience for me from just kind of a life perspective, not just not a coaching. I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I'm a businessman. I think it's interesting how that. I guess it's interesting how you see the world. It's in a different light.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, would you do me a favor and just adjust your mic just up a little bit? Yeah, that way, yeah, it'll catch you a little bit better. Can you hear yourself better now?
Yep.
Right on. Yeah, dude. It's definitely it's got to be interesting, right? Like knowing that you're making an impact, like in people's lives. Like I've been teaching jujitsu, like with Tracy Taylor for the past few years, man, and like working with kids, and it's never really a place I thought I'd be in life where like I'm teaching kids. And then, like, on the surface, I was like, all right, man, like, I'm doing this. My kids are in class. Of course, I want to help out and, like, be a good coach and dad and all that good stuff. But then you start, like, realizing, like, the real fucking impact that you can have on people's lives. You know what I mean? Oh,
powerful.
Dude, it's like the most – it's, like, super rewarding. And it's actually a very heavy responsibility when you really think about, like, what you can do. Because there are some teachers out there who will – maybe they're having a bad day, or they just never realize their dreams in life, or whatever the case may be, and they can just like completely like put a stain, like on
your life,
on somebody's perspective on whole life. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, no, I think I've taken in a number of athletes to live with me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how and as an administrator, my past stint was as an administrator. I feel like you want to make an impact, and these teachers sometimes don't truly. They think it impacts one thing, but the students think it's something else.
Yeah. What do you think an impact is?
I think an impact is when you actually have a student or an athlete see life differently, experience it, want to come to work, want to go to school, want to come to practice, even though it's going to be the hardest fight. You go to Rogers or Tracy's practice, you're like, man, I for sure don't want to go to practice.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go to practice, and then all of a sudden you're like, afterwards, you're like, boy, I'm glad I went to practice.
That's such a good like skill just to have in life if you want to be successful. I can't tell how many times in high school or even middle school where you get done with school, that bell rings, and you're like, oh man, like I gotta go to practice right now.
Especially in the jiu-jitsu or fight world, in the wrestling world, it's
Oh yeah,
it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not. I can go to the soccer field or the football field and hide behind John, or I can hide behind somebody, and if we didn't win, it wasn't really my fault.
Yeah.
In the individual sport world, and I think that's what makes I think business entrepreneurs that come from that industry, those individual sports industry, I think are in my world now, because I get to see it a lot. I see people every day. As a CEO of a company, I run with other CEOs.
Yeah.
And those individuals that are highly successful are normally individuals that have been through some type of, I'd say, war or fight.
Yeah.
And that war or fight could be a living, cultural,
Yeah.
diversity, minority, those individuals that have actually experienced something that they didn't see, that other people don't see.
Right.
I didn't grow up in a affluent community. I didn't get a brand new car. I didn't get my college paid for. So I think that kind of changes the way you see the world as well.
Yeah, yeah. The entrepreneurial path is actually a very lonely road. Like even if you have a team, dude, there's so many days you're just like alone, just like thinking about things or.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a funny thing you say. I think two things. I think the best coaches, and coaches mean CEO or coach of a team. I've been pretty lucky. I've been fortunate and lucky, but I think hard work. I think luck follows hard work, right?
Yeah.
But you live the highly successful ones have been divorced a couple times, or they haven't been married, or they go home with the same problems every night. And so it is a lonely, lonely world, and people from the outside who may or may not be your friends are seeing you and how their vision of the world is.
Right.
But they don't have to make the hard decisions.
Yeah.
There's hard decisions every day we come to work. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, a teacher, a business entrepreneur. Every day your feet hit the ground at 5 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
You're making decisions till your head's down on the bed,
right?
On the pillow in your bed, and so I think that does make an impact on how your life has formed who you are as an individual.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I think that's where, talking about those decisions, I think that's where like discipline comes into play, right? Because, I mean, you're making decisions whether they're conscious or unconscious, right? So as many of those decisions as you can like automate to be good, like if you just have the discipline, because like you said, there's so many times you don't want to do something, but you just got to get it done, dude. Like no one else is going to do it.
Well, nobody fucking cares.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. Quit your bitching.
I find myself a lot of times repeating things, and when I leave the meeting, I'm like, they really didn't fucking care. So I don't know why I only had 30 minutes to talk, and I spent 10 minutes complaining about something that's in my world.
Yeah.
It really doesn't impact them, and so they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I think that does make an impact on me as a leader in the roles that I'm in now. Depending on if it's in the political realm and I'm up in Jeff City, or if it's in the educational realm, or if it's in the corporate world, right?
Yeah.
If the CFO of Boeing wants to pull me in for a discussion and we're sitting there talking about maybe one of my problems in the world, doesn't mean shit to them.
Right.
So but I think everybody, the human nature is make it personal.
Yeah.
Right. Make it about you.
Yeah.
Right? I think just in general that is. And I think the most successful, I wasn't a highly successful competitor, but I have coached Olympians, right? I've coached highly successful people.
Right.
And, they're highly successful because they make it about them. They make it about the challenge. And so I mean, those are the things that kind of weigh in when you're carrying on discussions in the world where it's like, how do you clarify who you are as a leader? And I think those are the things I fight every day. When I get to the office, it's how do I shield the noise? And then I got to shield that noise, and I have to act on things.
Yeah.
And that every time you act, there's a reaction, reaction.
Right.
So how you handle those, I think the training, the life skills also kind of bring the leadership full circle from that magnitude.
Right. And there's no blueprint for this.
No.
You just kind of learn by doing.
No, I will say though, I took about 10 years off of that. I didn't really read a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So as an educator, I finished with 3 bachelors and a master's by the time I was, 28 or 29 years old.
There's a whole lot of reading.
And then I went back to my doctoral. So I took this time off, and then I started the doctoral classes in like 08 or 09, 08. And so I was so busy in the textbook world. I only things I read was I was required to read.
Right.
And so when I got out of that in 2012, it really I didn't really have it. Didn't I feel like I lost some time. So when I started this new chapter in my life, I thought, I got to start reading.
Yeah.
I got to try and read more. Getting a crash course of I'm really getting a master's degree or an MBA
Yeah.
in real life,
100%.
right, in business. And so, you're meeting with new lawyers and new accountants, CPAs, and you're dealing with merger acquisition, your round day funding, and
Oh yeah.
all of that stuff.
No class is going to teach you that.
None.
Yeah.
None. I mean,
Doesn't exist.
As a teacher, a lot of educators probably didn't agree with the way maybe I taught or my principles. I taught business management, marketing, and I managed the internship program at the school districts and universities I worked at. And so I was always about, college really isn't for everybody.
It's not.
At all. I mean, I got an identical twin that's great in construction, right? He does these huge elaborate homes, and he does well for himself, but school just wasn't his thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I got to see it real time from I'm an identical, as you know. So our lifestyles are very similar.
Yeah.
I think that plays a big role as well. It's like,
Yeah.
what you're not going to be taught this. You're not, I don't know. I could rant on the problems with education today.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like picking up a book and doing a lot more reading. I'm doing more reading to try and stay focused, kind of clear the mind.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
Dude, self-education is so important. Especially if you're relying on like the formal education system, like you do have to understand that there are regulations in place, and they have they have these standards that they have to meet, and people are getting accreditation, and it can take, new information can take decades to filter into academia. Like people don't understand that.
I could speak for days on that. That's a whole that's its own series,
Dude. Especially I have a beef with like the health field.
Oh yeah,
because of that very reason.
Yeah, I always tell I did a presentation down at WashU about the workforce of 2019, and a big piece of it is we're teaching like we're in the 1950s.
Yeah,
it's about memorization. It's keeping those in the educational system more of the manufacturing.
Yeah, nice little factory workers.
Doing what you're told.
Right.
Do what you're told. Read the
Show
paper.
up. We got whistle for break, whistle for lunch, whistle for another.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so I think as we transition, I really do believe public education is doing it right. I don't know that charter school education is in private school, because private school just says everyone's going to college.
It really does. It's trying to emulate that college model.
It is. And what you're seeing a lot more now, and especially in St. Louis for the St. Louis viewers, and I could speak on a number of cities across America, but Jennings High School with Art McCoy, very active. You see him a lot, transformative. But a lot of the public the educational systems already have industry certifications.
Yeah.
Kids can leave high school with a Cisco certification.
We have an excellent public school system. Like there are several really good districts in the St. Louis area and in Kansas City.
National,
nationally ranked national every year.
Yep. No, and I think that's two things. The city of St. Louis is actually a really good city.
Yeah.
When I moved to California in the Bay Area right after Michael Brown, and they're always asking where you're from, like St. Louis. Oh, how's Ferguson? I'm like, well, my dad grew up in Ferguson. They're like, your dad grew up in Ferguson?
They have a great brewery up there, bro.
They do. Yeah, Joe Lanero just sold it. But so people think St. Louis is a bad city, but it really culturally, it's diverse.
Yeah.
I do believe, I shouldn't probably say this over the air, but I think there is some racism still, a pretty deep.
There's some things lingering here for sure.
Still, for sure.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it. Obviously Terrell Wilburn moved in with me years ago. I didn't really see it till he moved in with me.
Yeah.
The people looking at you because you're the white guy,
Yeah.
But I also
sorry to cut you
Yeah.
off. That Delmar divide is like, you ever notice
crazy,
like how you can see it. It's very visible. Like how the real estate's different. It's crazy. Just like one road.
Yeah. That's one of our school districts, University City, right? The Wellston's project, Homegrown's doing study on the 60,000 African American students. Dr. Sean Joe at WashU, we're working with them guys as well, or talking with them guys. That Delmar divide actually has, there's a good group of Audubon associates in town that are dumping resources and money and bringing people together to refund that Wellston, Delmar community in a sense.
Yeah.
But it is it's extreme.
Yeah,
I mean, it
is.
it's
It's
one or
just
the
so
other.
weird how that happened, and then just
Yeah.
it's. But here's the thing: like, we're just like, as advanced as we like to think we are as people. I mean, we're all so tribal,
So
dude. Like, people like to be around things that look like them and that are as familiar. I can remember, whenever I was in high school, and this is back in 2005, 2006. Somebody took a picture of our cafeteria, and you could like
See it.
see the fucking line, dude.
Oh yeah,
And it's just like people just have this natural tendency to group themselves.
that is true. I didn't. The best thing I ever did, and I tell high school graduates and college graduates this all the time. Best thing I did in my career was actually go to California.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it was about California, but it was about seeing a different culture, a different group of people,
100%.
and see how they responded and interacted and communicated. To know that you can run a practice room with this great group of synergistic people
Yeah.
that were of different race and color and gender, and everybody was allowed. We had women wrestlers
Yeah.
that was here. They would have been there. No way. No, the high school coaches here that love women wrestling would talk trash on me because I was coaching girls, right?
Yeah.
So, you had girls wrestling. You have the LGBT community in the wrestling community. And, that's kind of all, that stuff's all sensitive, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But when I left the city of St. Louis, I didn't see those things. So that really made that played a big impact on who I was as a coach, and I would say most of my the honors that I won was after I left St. Louis, and I think a lot of it had to do with a different outlook on life.
Right. Just a whole different perspective game.
Different.
Yeah. So what made you want to kind of go down that path of being an educator, being a coach? Like, you grew up an athlete?
I grew up an athlete. My twin and I both played soccer and wrestling. I think it's from a psychological perspective, I think it's what I lost, which kept me coaching.
Yeah.
But most people kind of give you a little rundown of my story. So my mom was addicted to drugs. A lot of people in high school didn't know that, but by the end of her junior year, we were homeless.
Oh.
So we lived with our friends on and off. Joe Lukey, Mike Sherino, T.J. Heffley. We lived with our friends, lived in our car, did whatever it really kind of took. The Rollo family was amazing to us.
Yeah.
They were kind of their family. But while all of that was going on, I quit wrestling my senior year. I was working. Doug and I worked at Yellow Freight from 6 at night to 4 in the morning, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh, wow.
So during soccer season, Doug quit soccer, and I played soccer. And during wrestling season, I didn't wrestle, and so we just swapped our work effort so we had money.
I got it.
And then when we graduated, I worked for the city of St. Charles in the aquatics division, and I got mentored by Vince Milan, who was really unbelievable in the pool space. And I actually got a job working for the city of Baldwin, so I was their aquatic supervisor out of high school.
Oh, wow.
For the city of Baldwin, so they have the Point Indoor Complex in Baldwin. If you've ever been there, it's kind of like a miniature recplex.
Okay, I've never been there.
Pretty cool place. And about 8 months into that, Dr. Dennis Spellman, his daughter, who was just here, one of my business partners.
Okay.
Dennis was the president, or Doc Spellman was the president of Lindenwood University.
Yeah, I went to Lindenwood.
Okay.
So yeah, like I got there in 2006, and it's like I think it was his last year. He
passed
was like,
away.
yeah, he was. Yeah, did he die that year?
He passed
Okay.
away.
I know he was super sick. I didn't know if he like stepped down and then passed away the next year or.
On his deathbed.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So his daughter and Carl Hutter recruited me to Lindenwood University, and I'll kind of tell the story real quick because it's pretty powerful to tell the story of Dennis Spellman. So I signed a scholarship to play soccer and wrestling
at
Lindenwood, and then
this when they're NIA.
NAIA.
Yeah.
1995 and 96, 95, 96 had January a year, and so I sign it. I get to the end of the semester, and I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay this because there was a remaining balance. And so I call him Uncle Carl, but Carl Hutter is now the assistant AD there, said, well, go see Dr. Williams. And Dr. Williams was kind of Dr. Spellman's right-hand man in finance. So I walk into his office in the basement of where his office was housed, and I was looking at the back. I went to the business office. The business office said, pack your shit up and get out.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, man, I don't want to do. So that's why they sent me to Williams' office, and I don't know who's in this office. And some guy's hustling through some papers on a desk, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, can I speak to you?
Yeah.
And he's talking to me and kind of grumbly, not really excited. And I think this is Dr. Williams, right? And so I'm talking to this guy, and he asked me a story. I said, well, they said pack your shit up, get off campus, blah, blah. That's what they said? That's what I said, yeah. So, ironically, the gentleman called somebody down from the business office. This guy then says, and the guy from the business office the guy from the business office was like he knew something was up. And I don't know who this guy is I'm talking to. I just think it's Dr. Williams.
Okay.
And I don't know who Dr. Williams is. And this ends up being Dr. Spellman, and Dr. Spellman.
That's Dr. Spellman you're talking to?
I'm talking to the president of the institution, and so he's like, you're gonna go find this kid some money, and he's not going anywhere, or you can pack your shit up.
Oh wow.
And I was like, hey, I'm not trying to get anybody fired. I'm from the streets. I'm sitting there thinking, oh man, I just ruined this is a buzzkill. I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
And he says, Spellman says, sir, what's your name again? I said, I'm Billy Mitchell. And he says, okay, well, you have a seat. I said, okay. He just tells me, okay. He tells this other guy, go find some money. And in that discussion, we sat down and literally had about a 2-hour discussion because he was all about helping kids.
Yeah.
And ironically, he was trying to get the pool fixed at Lindenwood, which is the oldest pool west of the Mississippi.
Yeah, super old pool. Which building is that?
It's in Butler.
Butler Hall, yeah.
And so we're sitting there talking, and he was talking to Jim Bastian, who built the Baldwin complex,
okay,
to redo this pool. And the owner of the pool company said, well, there's this Billy Mitchell here. You could probably work him. He could probably fix the pool. Because the bathing pool was the size of this office.
Yeah.
Right? It was built in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And it was a boiler system. Mm-hmm. So he goes, well, you're Billy Mitchell? Do you know, are you in pools? And I said, yeah. He goes, I got a deal for you. And I said, well, what's that? He goes, you'll go to school for free. We're going to pay for your bachelor's degree.
Oh, nice.
And that was kind of the thing. And then they ended up stacking my work study.
Yeah.
My next thing, the next pit was, well, I'll give you work study if you coach at your alumni, which was St. Charles West. We were state champs.
Nice.
You go coach there.
Yeah.
So that was additional work study. Plus, so we just negotiated. So I negotiated my bachelor's degree.
Oh, nice.
And it was very unique that Dennis had this ability to really negotiate for anything.
Yeah.
That's how I got my bachelor's degree.
Oh, nice. That work study program is a really big program at Lindenwood. Or at least it was whenever I was there.
Well, not so much anymore. They've changed the financial model, but back then everybody did work study.
Yeah, everybody.
So it saved on payroll.
Dude, man, like, you could almost do a case study on that university for business.
I'm sure they've done.
I'm sure they have, right? Because that thing was they buy it for like $1. It was already, and then they turned it into like this extremely. It's not even. They have zero debt, right?
Well, their endowment's about dwindling though. The last couple of presidents have spent most of the money in general.
I work off a lot of old information.
Yeah, no. I'll kind of give you a rundown because it's all in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Lindenwood was 100% debt free. They had an amazing admissions. Dr. Joe Parisi was the wrestling coach, who you've probably met.
Yeah, I know Parisi.
Joe was the admissions guy.
Yeah, he was the head coach whenever I was there.
Yes. Yeah. And we were powerhouse when you were there. So I won a bunch of national titles.
Dude, yeah, everybody was just so fucking good.
Yeah.
Well, dude, those NAIA days, this is why they were so smart with their business model before they switched to the clearinghouse like the NCAA, right? Like, because they were NAIA and they're giving out scholarships, but really they're grants.
Yes.
They're grants, right? So even if you didn't continue with your sport, you still got to do it. So for them, dude, they're bringing in everybody, dude. Yeah. They're giving scholarships for everything.
Well, it was like pulling the fish out of a fishbowl, right? We got 90 wrestlers in here.
Oh,
and
dude.
then you got South Dade, Miami sending kids. You got Wabanzi. You got Neosho Community.
Yeah.
Well, Parisi had this. Well, Joe's just a great recruiter on top of great coach. But he had this unique ability to bring in all these studs.
Yeah.
So it was the cream of the crop, right?
Yeah, I always kind of called it, and maybe this is just crude term. I was like, this is just the D1 reject breeding ground. Like, no offense to the people who it's because they were all so good. Like, it's like you have people who can go D1, but for whatever reason, whether it's like grades or just behavior, whatever the case may be, like they just couldn't make it at the D1 level.
And I worked at another NAIA school, Menlo College, and Keith Spataro was their AD, and he founded their wrestling programs, and they were a powerhouse when he was there. But most people think we were just giving away money to we got these derelicts and we brought them in. But at the end of the day, Spellman was a lot like he did with me. So he would give the admissions office the freedom to go out and really pay it forward.
Yeah.
Give that second chance. Give that kid a second opportunity.
Yeah.
Bring them in, But Spellman was also the first guy to throw you off. I mean, Bobby Lashley's a prime example. Bobby was there for a semester, right? And he had wine in his house, I believe is what it was.
And it's a dry campus.
Dry campus, so they threw him out. And,
right. Yeah, they didn't take shit.
No, not at all.
But, they would give you an opportunity to come and,
When Bobby he was there as a coach. He got recruited to be our coach. Yeah, he was going to be the coach, and he was a beast, right? So, but to see Spellman hold that same accountability to his coaches.
Yeah.
Right. He was a GA, so
Yeah.
Spellman was hard. He was a hard man to read.
Yeah.
His daughter is obviously my business partner, and I've been around the family since I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And he was hard. He was hard on everybody.
Yeah.
So after God rest his soul, after he had left, it was definitely a transformation that people were like,
yeah,
we can do whatever we want now. We got money. Because most people there at Lindenwood don't realize. I mean, I got a person that I won't say the name, but she works at Lindenwood. She lives in my apartment complex. She lives in Florida below me, and we talk all the time. She's worried about budgets. Are they going on? Blah blah blah. Because there's a lot of talk about that.
They've built a lot of buildings. I feel
Yeah.
like they've bought up most of Old St. Charles,
Yeah.
as much as they can.
Yep.
It's like, man, they've done a lot of expanding.
Yeah. No. So yeah,
That costs money.
It does cost money.
Yeah.
And, I think Spellman had a 10-year plan. He died in 2006. I got to give it to Evans. They followed his plan. Parisi and the Missions followed the plan. They built that school till about 2016. Parisi left a couple years ago.
Okay.
And they got 2 or 3 empty dorms now.
Oh, really?
Who'd have thought that?
I would
Right.
have never thought. Education is changing across the board.
All the way.
Especially with everything going on now, I think people are realizing, like, hey, man, we might kind of be coming to this new wave of doing things, like this whole new revolution of how we operate within society as a whole.
That's kind of my bread and butter, right?
Right,
So
like that's where-
my technology. That's the formation and foundation of what we do. We're a talent acquisition platform. So we're a student engagement talent acquisition platform. So we're kind of LinkedIn and Facebook combined.
Yeah.
But more importantly, we take school district curriculum and we align courses. So in 8th grade, you take your 4-year you say what you want to do. Our machine tells you what classes to take.
Yeah. So walk me through this whole process, right? So just for the listeners, just so they know what we're talking about, we're referencing.
Yeah.
This is your company's called ScholarPath.
ScholarPath,
right? And
yep.
this is a technology-based company where you are. Well, I'm gonna let you explain. I don't want to So explain.
No, it's really unique. A couple years ago when I was living with my brother, when I came back from Vegas, he said, "Hey, let's make an app. Let's make a scholarship app."
Yeah.
Right. Well, once I got done to modeling it, financially modeling it, you just couldn't make it financially feasible. Who's going to invest in a company that's only going to do $10 million in revenue?
Right.
So, when we started working on the business plan with one of our business partners who specialized in writing business plans, he started talking to me about modeling and where's all the money in education. And, I kept saying, hey, it's about the career pathways. It's about giving kids opportunity that's not college related.
Yeah.
It's about creating jobs. So we really built a very interesting predictability technology, a SaaS platform that we sell to the school districts, and the school districts then upload their curriculum. And then we're really like Facebook's, where businesses, colleges, the military, teachers, coaches can drop information in the kids' newsfeed. So their newsfeed is all about their life.
Oh.
So what we do is we upload the curriculum.
Yeah.
We pull the data from the NCS database, which is all the colleges in America.
Yeah.
We cross-reference that with the Department of Labor, every job. And then we align those jobs with class coding. So we standardize the workforce data set.
Oh, wow.
And so we can tell if you're at St. Charles High, we have the ability now to say, okay, his kid wants to be in the business, wants to be communications, wants to do podcasts.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's the classes we recommend you take while in high school to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
So our machine takes their curriculum, it aligns it with the college and universities that align in that pathway, as well as the Department of
cool.
Labor.
Yeah.
And then we have a blinded messaging tool. So a university, a business, or a military can send a message to the students, and if the parents have given the kid the ability to communicate, they can then communicate back with the college. And I think, or employer, or the military, because I think those are the biggest ones. And we work with the unions. Dr. John Gall, who's on the governor's workforce board, is kind of the foremost expert in workforce and labor. He was with the Carpenters Hall for a long time, ran the apprenticeship program.
Yeah.
But I brought in the key people that I met 20 years ago in education that were saying, quit talking college.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a house. They're always going to need a house. Everybody's going to need technology.
Yeah.
Computers are going to keep changing.
Yeah.
And most people in the public education sector kind of laughed at me and my colleagues that are involved in it. ScholarPath now. A couple of them have just recently retired from other school districts that are in the local St. Louis area. And so we built a technology that allows businesses, colleges, and the military to actually communicate with a kid as early as 9th grade. And then the last piece that really creates the engagement. The engagement happens at the boundaries, right? It's got to be about me. So we've taken the institutional scholarships. So in America, all the universities follow an institutional scholarship model. So an ACT and a GPA gives you $8,000. we've now predicted. We've used that, and we can now make predictions. So in freshman year, if you've taken a PSAT or a PACT, and you have a GPA, which everybody does, and an ASVAB and a work keys, we now predict how much money you'll get. So now it changes the discussion at the kitchen table.
Oh, yeah.
Your son comes home from school, and because he skipped school, he missed a test, and his GPA dropped 2/10, so that caused you to lose $10,000 in academic aid.
So there's like a real dollar amount.
It's a real dollar amount. So we put dollars and cents in front of everybody. It could be training.
Yeah.
How much money did you save going to, most people don't realize this, but even if you go to the military and you become a heavy operator, right now the Army's offering $40,000 to be a heavy operator.
Okay.
You get out after 4 years. You go to the Heavy Operators Union. You get in because you've already got experience. They're probably going to let you in. You then file for the GI Bill. So the Army's paying you to go to school, but you're getting your apprenticeship for free.
Yeah.
And while in the union, you get an associate's degree.
Nice.
And you get paid a union wage while you're in the apprenticeship program.
And benefits.
Yeah. And you're pulling this double income from the military. So
Right.
there's so many benefits like that kids don't even think about.
Yeah, and parents don't necessarily know about those things.
Don't.
You know what I mean? Like if you haven't necessarily like taken that path, you might not really know. You
No.
know, I remember like going into college, like my parents didn't go to college and they didn't really know how to even like traverse those waters, right? Like they don't really know what to look for. I sat down with EJ Brooks. He coaches over at Cahokia, and the resource that his kids have because he went through the system. You know what I mean?
He understands it.
Yeah, he understands like what questions to have. You know what I mean? Like it really helps to have it. But if you don't, I mean, I can imagine like a tool like this.
Yeah, no, and the technology has really been built off what my brother and I have done pretty much my whole coaching career.
Yeah.
I've been placing students in college, especially in the sport of wrestling, for a long time.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a benefit to being in our wrestling club because if you wear a singlet, everybody in America calls us and says, "Who's in Missouri? Who do you want to sign?" I work with families in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Trying to line them up with scholarships, even if they're wrestling for a Keck or out of Park Hill or somebody like that. I'm all about just paying it forward and helping those kids get that next opportunity. So this technology will have the ability to do that. Do what I do for 5 kids.
Yeah.
For every kid in the country.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a good like resource for sure. Like I'm a little conflicted with like the direction that we give kids at that age because growing up here in the Midwest, especially, you're told like this is the blueprint to life. It's like you go to school and then you graduate and then you get your degree, and then after you get your degree, then you go get this 9 to 5, and you kind of put in your time there and work your way up the ladder. And a lot of people quickly realize that, at least maybe it's like my generation, we're kind of like at the tail end of where we kind of bought into that narrative, and then there's that time where nobody's getting jobs. You know what I mean? Like,
but you were in that era. You're in college. When did you graduate? 2009?
2010.
When the housing market busted.
Yeah.
So, I can talk, I rant about this one as well, so your generation, really my generation graduated high school in 95. So the people when I graduated college were educators saying, well, this is great. You can go to college.
Yeah.
This is something that's going to be beneficial to you.
Right.
But people were hiring college graduates right after the bubble burst, right?
Right.
Well, then you guys all go to school. We've told all of you to do it, and the market crashes. Well, when the market crashes,
right.
What do? What does your friends do if they're graduating college and can't get a job?
Oh, everybody moves back home with their parents.
And
dude.
do what?
What do you like?
They go back to college.
Oh yeah, they go to school. I'm
gonna get a master's.
They just stay. Dude, I bought into that lie, dude. Like I went to work and then I'm like, man, like they're not hiring me
because I don't have a master's.
I don't have a master's, dude. Like this might as well be a high school fucking diploma, man. And then I go get my master's and and then now it's like I don't even work in the corporate world anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean,
and then I have all this fucking student loan because, dude, it's actually kind of a racket that the government got into, like guaranteeing like
it's a scam.
School like money because like you hear the argument and it's like, oh, that's cool, everybody gets to go to school, everybody's guaranteed. But then now the universities, then they just start, the prices skyrocket far past inflation, and then it's the only debt that you can't even roll into bankruptcy because there's a whole certain like generation that actually ruined that for everybody. So, and it's that same generation that will like speak from their soapbox that, hey man, I went to school and I worked a summer job and it paid for everything. You should. And it's like it's fucked up, dude.
That's interesting because I had a friend come up the other day, 26-year-old, come up and I sat down with her and her husband talking about her. She's a nurse.
Yeah.
She's got $89,000 in student loan debt. And when you think about it, like, so I consult. I recruit kids to college. I have a consulting company that places kids in college.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, the banking industry has deregulated the ability to go get money when you have no job. You can take out $100,000. You could take out a $300,000 student loan debt and not have a job. No way to pay it back.
Yeah.
Because the legislation's built that way.
Right.
It allows the federal government to do it. The problem with that is if you can get into a federal loan, you can at least defer it. But
Yeah.
in many cases, you're capped out on that. And if you don't have a 0 EFC, you can't qualify for some of that No Parent Plus loans.
Yeah.
So these kids take these private loans. That's what I was dealing with this week. I'm sitting there looking at her, and I was like, this is just, it's sad. Because how do you make a house payment when she's paying $1,000 a month in student loans?
Yeah.
She's only making 52.
And dude, like that, it barely covers the interest.
Barely.
It barely covers the interest, man.
Never goes away.
Yeah, it follows you until you die. It's
Yep.
really a racket.
It's a scam.
It's a terrible scam, dude.
It is. I mean, I think, especially now with COVID, I mean, I could envision, I get a lot of the kind of the stuff coming down from top. We had a couple lobbyists that help us with our company, from D.C. down to the federal government and to the state, local levels. But, you figure this, in this CARES Act, they gave the state of Missouri $500 million. $300 million goes to DESE, Department of Ed, elementary, secondary.
Okay.
$200 million goes to the universities. The problem with that is these universities are going bankrupt, right?
Right.
And I'll kind of talk about that in a second. But but they don't give any support to those individuals. It doesn't matter if you give them unemployment and $600; they're still paying $1,000 a month for a student loan.
Dude, it's crazy.
They still got to have a house payment. So if I was talking to Dr. Gall about this morning, and he is on the governor's workforce board. It was a really interesting conversation. And the conversation was, if we don't give the people of your generation some form of financial support or waiver of reducing some of their student loan debt, they'll never get ahead. We have got to pay into the future,
right?
And they have you have no freedom.
It's tough to get ahead, and then it's really tough because you have people who are able to make it work and pay off the debt, and I feel like they probably feel cheated. But dude, there's so many people who are drowning in debt.
Oh,
it's insane, and I don't know what you do for those people. I mean, it sucks if you pay, but I feel like you have to do something for the people who are drowning. I don't know what, but something has to. Maybe just stop charging interest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
that'll never happen in the private sector. So
right. But even on the federal.
Yeah. I mean, I think from a federal perspective, if the federal politics are crazy on its own, but
yeah,
if they don't give some form of relief,
yeah,
to that, it doesn't matter because this COVID, and if people are unemployed or on furlough, it's going to take them 2 years to get out of this.
Oh yeah.
So if they really want to see a spike in some of this, is also give some freedom or some flexibility to those individuals, because it's real. I mean, this is real, and the difference between your generation and my generation is you had 9/11.
Yeah.
I was teaching during 9/11, so you had 9/11 in your educational experience. You had the housing market in your educational experience.
Yeah.
And then those individuals between there and now COVID. So your generation in this 20-year time span had 3 major life-altering financial experiences, and so as ScholarPath, as these educational technologies or anybody gets back into the marketplace, it's really driving what is the value to the individual and how do we take care of that debt.
Right. Yeah. I being older now, I truly realize the value of things like tech school or going and getting a job until you figure it out. You know what I mean? Because my other conflict with really how we guide kids at that age is your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. And I know people I can look at my little brother. He's the best example. He was very volatile and erratic in his decision making, and then just one day he's just this super rational guy, man. It's just now you see things clearly, and you even learn better and you think things through, and we're telling kids without fully formed brains that you need to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And life is so long. How many people change careers throughout life or don't know until they're later in life?
I think that's a whole subject on its own.
That's a big choice to make.
It is. What I see now that's so much different in today's generation. I work with the workforce, so is that people leave a job after a year or two.
Yeah.
They get recruited. The market's different. We got technologies that allow people to get recruited, headhunters that come out and get you and seek you. When I first started, it was you got to stay. A big part of me leaving education or even leaving the state of Missouri, which was the best thing I did for a number of reasons, but mainly for my personal understanding how life was a little bit different, is that my generation says everybody has to work for 30 or 40 years from the same job.
Right.
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 And what as I talked to college graduates, I had 2 last week send me your resume and say, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but with COVID, everyone's canceled their internship program. So I interviewed 2 possible interns today. But Worldwide Technology, Darty Solution, all these local big firms here in St. Louis
Right.
are canceling their internship because where are they going to go? They're going to work at home, and there's no structure.
Right.
And so a lot of times, these kids now, I think parents are really hampering their decision. It's kind of like your conflict of the educational system.
Yeah.
I hate to say this to parents, and I tell a lot of parents this: you're the one messing up half of the time because you're the one telling them what they're going to do. Because it's about you.
Yeah, because a lot of parents will really try to guide their kids based off what they feel like maybe they should have done different.
Exactly.
Like if they didn't go to college, you should go to college.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of the opposite. Like I went through that whole rat race. I'm just like, man, buddy, like I tell this both my kids, like if they want to go to college and they feel like that's their path, then cool. But like I'm also gonna like be like, hey man, there's tech schools, or like my daughter, she's not gonna fucking go to school. Like I already know, like school is not. She's super artistic, and we live in a world today where you can really build something for yourself like no other time before.
Where do you live at?
Me? I'm in the Pattonville School District.
You're golden. Pattonville has a great educational program.
Yeah, and she's on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
Not very severe. You wouldn't even know
Yeah.
if you didn't really if I didn't tell you. But like their special, their resources are just fucking phenomenal.
Well,
man.
they have resources.
They have
Pattonville's got resources.
They have resources.
Hey, Pattonville, vote for Mindy Ridings. No, she's running for school board again.
Oh,
so
right
vote,
on.
Vote for her.
I'll vote for her.
She's a friend. But another piece of that is you guys got North County Tech. And that is the deepest secret in North County and South County Tech. That technical high school has so many amazing things, right? That you can get industry certification, whether it's culinary or whether it's auto body or floor laying, or whatever, cosmetology. You get certified coming right out of high school, and you got no debt. You don't have to go to one of these cosmetology schools.
Oh my goodness! Like you can do so many good. Like if you don't have debt, people don't realize like how that opens up all the opportunities.
Yeah.
All the you can move.
Financial freedom's key.
Go everywhere you want, like, because people are so scared to like deal with the hard shit, but like they don't realize like you can really just pick up and go anywhere and like make it happen. It's not easy. It's not easy, but if you don't have debt and you don't have these things like having kids when you're young or different things like that, like you can make it work. You can figure it out.
I mean, the startup world, right? I mean, the world I live right now. My brother, the people I know have kids. There's no way we could do this company without me doing it, right? And I'm not saying it because of what I am. I don't have kids. I don't have the responsibility that everybody else has.
Yeah.
So because they have that responsibility, my brother's done another medical startup, and he went a year without salary. He's got kids. He's got a family to take care of.
Yeah.
I'm pretty simple. I can eat canned chili every night of the week if I had to.
You'll figure it out.
I'm an adult, right? I can make that work.
Yeah.
I was a wrestler, man. We can go a while without eating.
We know how to do it.
Yeah, we make weight, right? So I don't. I think that's another big piece of the equation. What does that responsibility look like? You nail it with your kids. Because now you're really thinking for the betterment of 3, or 4, right? And so I think a lot of parents kind of miss. They make it personal. You don't own your kid,
right?
So when you're giving your kid advice, you don't own them,
right?
They're their own individual, and by allowing them to grow, by allowing them to think for themselves, by allowing them to make their own decisions, and having, but there's consequences.
100%.
You got. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in my world.
Oh yeah.
Right? But I got to live with the consequences, right? And I think kids in today's world. And people say millennial. Well, millennials are out of school. So anyone that says
I'm a millennial.
Yeah, anyone that says millennials to a group of kids that are in high school, you're like, well, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Talking about Gen Xers.
Yeah. I'm sitting there like, okay, this person has no clue who they're talking to.
Is that what they're called? Is it Gen X?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gen Z, I think.
Z?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting to see how from an education perspective, I have to sit there and listen to parents come in and defend their action. I was the dean of students at my last school, assistant principal dean of students, and I don't know if you knew this, but I went to work for Pitbull's school in Las Vegas. So,
I did not.
Yeah, so I left Vegas and got recruited to or lost California and went to Vegas for work for Pitbull's school in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay.
And so as the dean of students, I had to deal with all this discipline. These parents would come in to defend their actions. I'm like, well, they hit a kid.
Right.
So I mean, but that's kind of the culture,
I saw a really funny joke about that, or maybe somebody was just talking about it and it was funny, but they're like, there was a whole period of at one point it was like you always took the adult's word for it. You know what I mean? Like if a parent got called in, it's like what did you do? Like now you got like you're not gonna like call the teacher a liar. But now, dude, like parents will come in and it's just like like you're the lawyer for the kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, what'd you do to make them do that? I couldn't imagine like working in that type of
Well,
situation.
I think I miss being in the schools. I thought for a long time. One of my mentors, Steve Jerkins, was the principal at Hazel West that hired me, and he kind of babysat me my first few. I was a pretty intense coach.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
So I did some things that my team loved me, and I think we did pretty exceptional.
He's passionate.
Passionate's a good word, but Steve, I was in the finals for an athletic director position at Hazelwood West when I was like 27 years old, and I think the committee probably would have voted me to be the AD. I would think. I mean, I knew many of the people on that committee. But he just pulled me into his office after my interview and just said, he wasn't on the interview. He said, Bill, you're way too young. You're not going to be able to do this job for the next 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah.
This job, you're at every event. You're not going to have any family. You're not going to be social. So I do miss I miss being in the school setting, but being an administrator, even this athletics was one thing, but then being the assistant principal or being a CTE coordinator, then having to be out in the community, that was kind of my niche. I loved just being the guy that went business to business and worked with major corporations. I served on the chamber board for the Northwest Chamber for a number of years. I served on the board out in California in the Silicon Valley for their Chamber of Commerce. And that was kind of my niche. So that, I think
You're a community builder.
yeah, that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my overall Jerkins gave me the principal of Pattonville is the rock star. He took Steve's job afterwards, but they gave me a position as a corporate liaison to his high school. Then I taught 2 classes or 3 classes, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I was out serving on these boards at the Kiwanis with the Knights of Columbus.
Yeah.
Really, the pillars of community. So that's really where our workforce piece on our technology comes into play, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's my experiences that have allowed me to kind of break that barrier down. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. So I do miss being in the school. I miss the kids.
Yeah.
And every day, I mean, I Zoomed last week with 2 kids out of California that I taught in high school, and now I've graduated college.
That's cool.
I helped get them in college, and now now I'm just kind of mentoring them through that next phase of how do we get a job. And
Yeah.
I'm calling out to the Bay Area. Hey, I'm calling city councilmen and mayors, and
Dang.
I'm calling them saying, hey, you know what? One of my boys graduated from college now. Would you have a sit down coffee with him? And so I'm able to still kind of craft that.
Yeah.
And I think I do that because I really miss just impacting.
Yeah.
I don't get paid for it. It's just how do we move these kids in the right direction? And I think that if we had more people doing that,
Yeah.
we may not have the situation that we sit in today.
Yeah, man, just put in like good like positivity out into the world, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do I feel like with everything happening, there's going to have to be some sort of like change to like the structure of how we like educate and continue to, move people in the workforce, especially with automation and different things. Like how do you feel like that's going to evolve?
Well, I'm all in right now. I mean, I think what we're doing at ScholarPath is really the transformational thing.
Yeah.
We have a blinded messaging system that allows employers to communicate with high school students to get them into a trade school or into a union right out of high school.
Right.
So the unions have the ability to target market those kids.
Yeah.
And then suck them out because the kid has already said, I want to be in the carpenter.
Yeah.
I want to be an electrician. The electrical unions now can nail down, if I've got 50,000 students, who is really interested in being in the electrical union.
Right.
Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And they can start marketing them early on. So I think we're all in from that perspective. But I think there's going to be, I say ScholarPath kind of reverse engineers education. We're allowing the decisions to be made by the students. Because our technology now says in 8th grade, it allows you to tell the school district what classes we're taking
Yeah.
before they get in there and they manipulate the schedule. Because you always end up, you're like, I didn't sign up for this class. How many high school students do that in the country, right? They're like, why am I taking? I don't want this teacher. I don't want to take this class. But because the section numbers were low, they just kind of filled you in.
Right.
And so our technology gives the administration, the superintendents, the ability. Dr. Tom Muzzy's down in Orchard Farm, and he's just a superstar rock star with workforce development.
Yeah.
So he's a great input. And Sharonica at U City, wow. St. Charles School District Superintendent, wow. So I think that's where we're transforming that. And then I think on the next piece, we as educators, we as a community, You know, I mean, when I say reverse engineer, I'm saying reverse engineer because our technology allows the students to start driving that discussion of what classes they need to take, but more importantly,
Yeah.
what industries they want to be in.
Yeah.
You know, so the ability for Governor Parsons or the city manager or county executive to say, okay, I got a dashboard, and in this dashboard, you know, in the St. Louis region, 51% of the students want to go into business. And of those students, 10% of them are athletes. And of the 10% that are athletes, 5% want to stay local.
Yeah.
So, okay, UMSL. Okay, St. Louis Community College. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we're really working. Hart Nelson's the workforce chancellor over at St. Louis Community College. That's why we got a good relationship with him. I really envision we're going to be piping the Boeing pre-employment program. We're working on a partnership right now with Boeing, of allowing them to brand and market that Boeing pre-employment program. You know, most kids don't even know this. This is the transformative thing that's happened in education nobody knows. So Boeing, if you've graduated and you've gotten a 5 or 4 or higher in your work keys, might be 5 in some categories, which is the ACT equivalent to workforce skill set.
Okay.
You can get on at the Boeing pre-employment program for free.
Oh, wow.
Which is the old Circuit City out there in North County. And they teach you they got like 6 or 7 different programs, and then Boeing gives you first shot to come work for them. So 6 weeks after 6 weeks of training,
Yeah.
at 18 years old, you're working for Boeing in their manufacturing plant.
That's cool.
Making $18.50 an hour, and you get a 50-cent raise every 6 months to your top of the scale.
As a teenager. That's huge.
You also get tuition reimbursement after a year.
Yeah.
After 30 days, you get full Boeing benefits. You know, and so these types of things that the high school teachers are saying, why would you do that? You got to go to college.
Yeah.
I mean, that fear factor
Yeah.
that kids face, I'm hoping that our technology transforms that. So I think as education changes, if you were to say, what is COVID going to do in this? You know, and I'm all down on skilled labor workforce. I'm all down and skilled labor workforce doesn't mean slinging a hammer. It means a lane over at Savvy Coders,
Yeah.
which is a 12-week boot camp that teaches full stack development. Go into Savvy Coders, pay your WIOA money, use your WIOA money, get it for free, and then walk into the workforce doing program full stack development at Darty, at Worldwide, at Boeing.
Oh, yeah.
And allowing yourself to really expand at 18, 19 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And, you know, I think the smartest kids, if I was a parent, if I had children in the high school sector now, I'd be sending them to Cisco certification at North Tech or South Tech or Lewis and Clark. And then I'd be saying, okay, when you graduate, let's do Savvy Coders, get full stack development. If they're extremely good in school, and a lot of programmers, you know, they're just kind of, they like the program.
Yeah.
Right? Taking theology or taking sociology to them just doesn't jive, right?
Right.
So, you know, I think there's too many opportunities out there right now. I believe COVID's going to force school districts to change the way they're thinking. What I'm hearing, the school districts are already going to either move back an extra month, depending on how this thing plays out, COVID plays out in the month of June. But more importantly, you might do an A-day, B-day more like a college campus. So if you're on A days, you go to school every other day. If you're on B days, you go to, so that would reduce the population of the school by half.
I never thought of
So you have class every other day. Some schools are talking about that.
That's interesting.
Some schools are talking about going from their hour period to their block period so they can create that.
Yeah.
You know, so there's some are stacking it. You know, so the superintendents in the local area, we're working with Ed Plus and the commissioner at the state to try and come up with a true solution that would allow kids with this distant learning. And then more importantly, where we're all in is how do we create this distant learning and allow kids to start understanding what's going on in the real world. If you're going to go to school every day, how do these employers like Deerbergs and Schnucks, the essential people that need stockers, how do they hire people and not have to pay them a high wage?
Yeah.
I think the unemployment for Missouri is 14% now, and I think it's going to excel up to north of 20%.
Wow.
By June.
Yeah.
And, you know, all this PPP money's spent. They may come back with another tranche, but I don't see that making it through Congress. And if it doesn't make it through Congress, well, our unemployment's going to start spiking. Right now, it's only 13. I mean, originally, I think the workforce numbers were going to be 33% of unemployment before the PPP money.
Yeah.
Before that CARES Act came into play,
Yeah.
they were looking at Missouri having a 30 to 33% unemployment.
Wow.
And those are real numbers.
You know, if a whole bunch of people all go bankrupt right now, you know what I mean? Like, then what?
Well, I think that's,
you know what I mean?
From an economic perspective.
You can't even view that as a negative on somebody. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's like, oh, man, they went
You know what
bankrupt.
they're you know what they're not filing bankruptcy on, though?
Was
Student loan debt.
Yeah, that's
So
still there.
most people don't have the issue. I mean, the people that are going to file bankruptcy, I mean, even if they get rid of their house and their cars and their boats or whatever they get rid of, because most Americans live outside their means, it's still going to have this huge halo of debt sitting over your head.
Still, it's not going away.
Yeah, let me give you a statistic here. You're going to think this is crazy, but this is the real number. In America, there's roughly 16 million high school students.
Okay.
Nearly 4.2 million of them graduate a year. Only 49% of them will go to college. And of the 49% of them, only nearly 45% of them will graduate in 5 years. So we're talking about nearly 25% of high school graduates will actually earn a degree in 5 years.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the average mean income or mean debt of being $38,000 to $40,000, how are these people going to pay it back?
Yeah, that means people have that debt but don't even have degrees.
They don't.
Right.
They don't, so they can't pay it back.
Right.
And even if they had the degree isn't weighing enough. You go to the Bay Area, I don't care what these people think in the St. Louis region. I kind of laugh in these conservative pockets. But you go to California, they're like, I mean, I worked at my high school students.
Yeah.
I set a partnership up with NAF Academy and Juniper Network, which is like Cisco's competition.
Yeah.
$25 an hour in the summer between their junior and senior year. The kids were not getting a college degree. They were leaving high school from their digital business academy and going in and making a real dollar amount while they're getting trained.
Yeah.
That is happening in America. It's happening in the Bay. We just aren't getting it here.
I think it's funny, like, there'll be kids who will, like, figure out a business or something that they can sustain themselves on, and we'll still direct them to go to college. It's like, hey, man, I know you're probably making a lot of money on Twitch, or, like, you're hustling and selling stuff, but it's like, hey, have you thought about college? It's like, why am I going to college? So I can get money to live. Well, you're already doing that, but we'll still and I'm not against college, right?
Yeah.
I think that if you're gonna go to college, you need to know why you're going. I feel like too many kids go there to figure it out, and you're putting yourself in debt while you're figuring it out.
Well, but again, that's what we're doing, right? We're forecasting what a kid could take in high school.
Yeah.
We're putting them on a track. We're giving them end goals. They're setting the goals, their parameters.
Yeah.
Universities are recruiting you because they know what you're majoring in. They know what your sports are.
Yeah.
The best fit kid, and I think at the end of the day, if these, hate to hate on teachers because I'm one of them, but until our culture changes, I think this COVID's gonna make an impact on it a little bit because teachers now are having to learn to do the things they couldn't do. I was talking to a friend of mine is a CFO in town of a big major corporation, and he's like, our billables are going up, but our people are still learning how to do work without their two assistants. So from a CFO perspective, they're like, see, we've been saying you could do this job.
Yeah.
Before you were saying I couldn't do it.
Right.
Now you are.
Now you are.
So, I think COVID's pushing people to the limits of how to quit being so 1950s.
Yeah, how efficient and how lean can you run?
Yeah, and I think that's what this is forcing people to do. It's really forcing individuals to start thinking differently.
Yeah.
And as they think differently, they become, how are you a lean startup? Are you a lean startup? If you raise $1 million, how are you spending that money, right? And I think that all plays a big role in how successful you'll be.
Oh yeah, dude, you have to be able to be resourceful.
Yes.
Just in life in general, but especially in the startup world, right?
Man, it's been you're kind of in a startup world, right? You're trying to start your own business. You're doing the podcast thing, and I think that and there are people that do what you do that make tons of money off of just this.
Dude, Joe Rogan, he's the king of podcasting, but he just signed a multi-year deal with Spotify to license his show. So he's not an employee of them; they're just licensing his show. It's an exclusive licensing agreement, multi-year for $100 million. So he literally just set the standard of what is truly possible with podcasting. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
So as a fan, I'm a little bummed out because I don't use Spotify. So he's pulling everything from all platforms. It's only going to be on Spotify.
Oh, wow.
No YouTube, no Apple Podcast, only Spotify. So so that's kind of a bummer. If you don't use that platform,
So he's testing to find out how many people will.
he's going to lose some people. He knows it.
Yeah.
But Spotify's going to win. He's winning because it's dude, you just made the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And one day someone's going to beat that deal. That's the beauty, right? Because once you put it in the realm of possibilities, someone's going to try to do
Who's
better.
the biggest podcaster in this region, in St. Louis?
In St. Louis? Yeah, man, honestly, it's hard to say. I'm not going to pretend I know everybody, but I mean, Andy probably has one of the largest podcasts. His is huge. We used to have a guy here named Sean Stevenson who ran the Model Health Show, and he was out in the Wildwood area, but he was from here. I think he just recently moved to LA though. His was really big at one point. It was like the #1 health and wellness podcast in the world.
Oh wow.
There's actually a guy, Dr. Aaron. I'm gonna mess up his last name. I can't think off the top of my head, but he is like a physical therapist, and he runs this brand called Squat University. Has over 1 million,
Wow.
followers on Instagram. And dude, he's a physical therapist here in the SSM
No kidding.
yeah, system. And he's also running like the Squat University thing. So I know he has a podcast. I don't know how big that is, but he obviously has a huge brand.
Yeah.
Like educating and reaching people. So he's definitely a guy I'd like to sit down with, but. Those are the only ones I really know off the top of my head that have like huge podcasts.
Yeah. No, that's it's interesting. Well, I mean,
Me.
just like I mean, yeah. Obviously, I wanted to be on your stuff too, just because I know you. But I think it's important. You're no different than reading a book, right? So
Yeah.
it's on the last podcast I did, it was interesting just to have the number of ex-students or non-students reach out to me on social media.
Yeah.
And that one was really was driven by college students, and it was out in California. But the amount of people in the USA Sports that reached out to me after that podcast, and it was just a voice podcast.
Yeah.
But it was, it was knowledgeable about how to get scholarships,
Yeah.
how to be active, how to set up a resume, just all the things. A little bit about my life, but a lot about just essential things that you need to do as a high school graduate trying to get a college scholarship.
Right. And that's kind of what makes me wonder, like, where things are going in the education system. Because, I mean, for somebody to like adopt your technology, like they're gonna have to offer like the course offering is gonna have to be pretty vast, and like you're gonna have to do some restructuring with what you offer. I feel like some of the things that are offered are kind of like outdated. We don't necessarily teach kids things that they need to know.
Good statement. Well, I don't do anything in the people upload their course codes.
Right. So you
But
wouldn't have anything
like
to do
the
with
virtual online stuff,
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to that.
Yeah.
So for me, it doesn't really impact me. In fact, we're kind of, I always say nonpartisan in that sense. But the virtual classroom setting, the teaching online, all of that's changing, right? To there's a number of merger acquisitions that have taken place in the last couple of years that are really in that education virtual space. I see K-12 right now had a kind of a filed a suit against Missouri, so they have the ability to now students can get their high school diploma online through a virtual school, and they can get paid through the public money they're paying the high school districts.
Oh wow!
It's going to affect the unions. It's going to affect public education. It is a publicly funded online virtual education.
Oh wow!
So the state of Missouri just got that. That just came through this year, or in 2019. And so it's been up in arms, right? And I don't know that I completely agree with all the virtual stuff, but I believe it's a good opportunity for kids. There's a lot of kids now because of technology. Teachers just don't want to pay attention to technology.
Yeah.
They don't care. They punish you for having a cell phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I always allowed my students. I mean, there was not a year since cell phones have been active because I was teaching before cell phones.
Yeah.
But I guess there was cell phones, but they were big ones.
You
But
can't fight change.
no, I mean, I encourage the kids to use it. I mean, I'm sitting here telling you you're a business guy and you're gonna go into a world of technology, and I'm gonna tell you can't use technology.
Right.
So I think this COVID, and I think virtual online education is gonna transform. It's gonna again kind of force public education to think outside the box.
Right.
So why not adopt it?
Right.
Why not say, okay, students, why don't we partner with an online platform, maybe K-12, and say, okay, maybe a profit sharing thing that allows us to keep some of our money,
Yeah.
or maybe we as a state I could almost see it to an extent that a state adopts a virtual online technology that takes a piece of every school district in the state and allows them to kind of virtually learn, and then it doesn't affect this it'll kill the private industry sector. It won't kill it, but it'll definitely change the
disruptor
approach.
for sure.
It'll disrupt it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, there's so many ways to learn. Where there's virtual and like podcasting. Like, man, there's not a thing you can't teach yourself these days.
Video game. Look at the video games. Look at these 5-year-olds that are on video games that are sitting here with headsets on.
Yeah.
And the technology is just insane.
Dude, it's crazy. And to keep up, I mean, you just figure like whatever courses these schools offer, like it has to keep up. You know what I mean? Like we can't make kids go through geometry who are never gonna use that. You know what
Exactly.
I mean? Like if a kid's gonna go into the military, maybe we make sure we prepare them for the military. If the kid's gonna go into the workforce, like maybe we make sure that they understand what like credit is and different things, so that way they can enter into the world and like be on a sound footing. Like I feel like there has to be some sort of like maybe restructuring like just the courses that some of these schools
Well, that
will have
goes
to
back to
offer.
what you opened with. That comes back to the governmental thing. It takes, I mean, I'll just say from a public education perspective. So a city manager can say, hey, we're moving a casino to town, or we're moving a family arena to St. Charles.
Yeah.
Hey, is there any way we can get some curriculum around sports management? We're going to need people working concessions and grounds and facilities, or a soccer park is in Fenton. And, can you do, and then to make that happen, you have to empower people and create groups.
Yeah.
And these groups have to get together and they got to say, well, I don't know. And then the educators like to talk.
Yeah.
Nobody acts in education. It's just all a bunch of talking. And normally it's bitching. So it's half the room's bitching. The other half the room just wants it done. And maybe there's one guy in the room looking at a real solution, right? So that's the unfortunate thing about education. So you spend 2 years thinking about curriculum.
Yeah.
You spend another year putting curriculum together for the third year to put in front of the board.
Oh,
and then the board says, nah, by then 3 years down the road, technology's changed.
Too late.
It's too late. So,
yeah.
I think there needs to be, I think, again, this distant learning thing, I think it's going to transform how we view those things and how do we make that in a rapid, how do we change that rapidly? I was on SRG Technologies as a individualized learning plan, lesson plan type thing, technology they're based out of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and we're looking to partner with them. They have a really neat situation. They bring in all the curriculum district-wide, and then they allow teachers to then begin crafting for individuals their learning plan.
That's cool.
Right? So for the first time that I've seen a technology that allows a teacher to say, oh, here's his surveys, and here's his goals, and here's his learning style, and here's this, oh, wait, with this report, here's the 5 things we need to do with this kid for the rest of the year.
Oh,
we need to know that he's a social learner, or he's not social intrinsic. Is he?
Yeah.
Do we need him in diversified learning? Do we need him differentiated learning?
That's cool.
Do cooperative learning? What types of strategies are we going to use? And
the
technology allows you to now dictate that.
That's cool.
I think technology is going to transform that if teachers will adopt it. Who are the early adopters? Who actually is going to be the early adopter, right? And if there's no early adopter, then what is it? Now we're forcing it down their throat? Now I have a union that says I don't have to do anything you tell me to do.
People just like to be comfortable. They don't want to change. The status quo is fine.
For sure.
Yeah, people like to get their tenure in education and just be cool.
Well, yeah, your tenure, man. You're pretty set, right? I mean, there's nothing. You're there for 30 years. You could just hand out worksheets every day.
Yeah.
Right? It takes a lot of documentation to get rid of a teacher after they're tenured.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what's it take to get tenured? Is it just time?
In Missouri, it's about 5 years. In California, it's 2.
Oh, wow.
So after your second year teaching, you don't even know how to teach after 2 years, but after your second year, you're tenured.
Oh, wow.
So the school districts have to make executive decisions quickly and say, you know what, this person may or may not, because once they sign that third-year contract,
it's done.
They're stuck.
Wow.
Yeah, they can't get rid of the person.
Dang, man, that's got to be a rough spot to be in. If you have a tenured teacher and you can't get rid of them, like they're just not like keeping up with the times or whatever the case may be.
It's horrible.
Oh,
especially when you're an administrator, because the parents are calling the administration. You're like, well, I can't just fire them. They show up to work. They do this. They do that.
Yeah. Shit, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how things kind of pan out when all this is said and done. We're going to be looking at a different world. I think.
With the NCAA releasing, I think now that the NCAA is allowing some of the fall sports to voluntarily start practicing.
Yeah, I saw that.
California, the UC system has waived all fall sports and has already said students won't be on campus for a semester next year.
Yeah.
All the UC colleges,
really?
The whole state. So the private schools in California, CalBAP, the Menlos, those types of schools will still continue, and I think it's going to help them because kids want to get their degree over with.
Yeah.
And most people don't want to learn online.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What they don't. So I remember, I thought whenever I went into university, I thought 4 years, you're supposed to be done in 4 years. What they don't tell you is no, it's really 5. 5 is the average, and sometimes 6 for a lot of people.
Yep.
It's just poor communication there. I want to ask you one last question because we're kind of on time. I want to be respectful of your time. What do you think about these college athletes getting paid?
I'm for it.
I'm for it too.
I, as a college coach, for a number of years, the people that are against it, right, the ones that are actually against it are the ones that didn't wake up at 6 a.m. and do morning workout.
Yeah.
Practice, study tables, get up the next morning, do the same thing every day of the week. And then they got to make up their work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on their travel weeks.
Yeah.
Because they go a day early to rest, to play, so the amount of school you miss, it is a full-time job.
People don't realize you're an athlete student.
Yeah.
You're not a student athlete.
Well, especially basketball and football.
Oh, especially those big sports.
Right.
And like, how would you feel if you're the starting quarterback for whatever program, and then they're selling your fucking jersey at Walmart left and right, and your name's not on it, but your number is, and you know why people bought that jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
No,
then here you are. You got Nick Saban making millions of dollars off these kids.
Yeah. Oh, these
I'm not
head
mad at
coaches
them.
are crazy.
Yeah, these coaches are making buku bucks.
Yeah. No, I've always been for it. I never really understood the paranoia and everybody flying. I mean,
Well, you're getting a free education, bro.
But are you?
But
I mean, you're earning it. It's not free.
Yeah.
It's easy for the person that didn't have a scholarship that says it's free.
Yeah.
That shit ain't free.
It's not free.
You got up. You had to go to this weight training. You didn't get. Wrestling. Let's just talk wrestling.
Yeah.
September 1st, man. You're doing preseason, right?
Oh, yeah.
You got this grind, right? You go all the way through the international styles, the World Series, World Team Series, all that stuff. You're into the summer. You get a July, and then the Worlds are in the first September, October, or August and September. So if you're one of the premier in wrestling,
Yeah.
Now
Like
all
a
the
Jaden
other
Cox.
sports, everybody's still training, but I'm just talking about in the wrestling world. Those kids never took a break. Jaden
Round.
Cox over at Mizzou, he doesn't take a
He
break
doesn't take a break. He wrestles all the time.
all the time, right? And so it's for me, just because I've been a coach, I've been an athlete. I find like it's kind of selfish for somebody to say, well, you're getting your education for free. Well, you are, but you're taking a risk, and you're out there dying on the field.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're playing your sport. Well, you are playing your sport, but you also, to craft your sport, to get you there, you spent 10 years earning that.
Oh, man.
Right?
Yeah, you start when you're a little kid for a lot of these guys.
Well, nowadays, when we grew up, you played 3 sports, right? That's just what you did.
Yeah.
Now, nowadays, it's if you're not, Tracy,
Yeah.
the kids, you're watching the wrestlers we coach, right? Our kids that wrestle for us, Doug and I, you're wrestling 12 months a year. That's just all there is to it.
just
And you're doing
nonstop.
4 days a week, all spring and summer. Mm-hmm. All spring and summer. So your summer is a wrestling camp
Yeah.
all summer long, every day.
It's constant, whether it's folk style or freestyle or Greco, it's like you're wrestling.
You're wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think the best soccer's, these academies. Now you don't play high school soccer, you play academy. Well, if you play academy,
It's all club teams. Yeah.
that's crazy. So, I think you should get what you're owed when you're a great athlete. And the ones that are complaining are the ones that either don't want to put in the effort,
Yeah.
probably don't have the talent. Well, you know what? They might have the athletic talent, but what about the talents that you have that you're going to make more money doing?
Yeah.
Right? How about you're going to be an engineer, or so I don't know. I think it's I think it's a debate.
Yeah.
I'm not into a debate here, but I'm on your side. I
Yeah.
100% agree with.
I think they should.
I think they should pay.
Yeah, man. And everybody wants everything to be fair. Well, you're gonna pay the football player more than you pay the gymnast. Well, guess what?
World's not fair.
World's not fair. Exactly.
Yeah.
Dude, Bill, that's probably the good way to end it right there,
Yeah.
brother.
Awesome.
I'm gonna leave it to you. If there's anything you want to plug, how people can check you out, or resources, or anything like that, and I'll put things in the show notes. But anything you want to leave?
No, from our perspective, it's ScholarPath.com. We sell to school districts, so individuals can't buy us. So it's really not. We're not selling anything tangible, but the employers, the college and university. So our verticals are kind of odd. It's not the general public, but if you have a superintendent,
Yeah.
So it's not really. This podcast is really just to get awareness, and I was excited if there's something we can do to share and create brand awareness for
and
you.
you never know who's gonna hear this, dude. Maybe
Right.
maybe it's a parent who has on the board or something. But hey, man, we can bring this in, dude.
Yeah. No, it's
dude.
great, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, Bill, I appreciate it. Bill Mitchell,
Awesome.
ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.